Hello folks, welcome to another video on Pale Blue Thoughts. Today we're going to talk a bit about farming. And before you say I'm not a farmer, so I'm not interested in this, do understand that food is one of the basic needs for a human being. So it doesn't matter if you are a farmer or not. I'm sure you have seen those packets and packets of food labeled as organic and natural when you have visited any grocery shop or supermarket. So what is this build-up about organically grown vegetables and produce? Is it worth the hype? And mainly, is it scientific and more nutritious and less harmful as the label suggests? Is it all natural without any chemicals and harmful substances? Well, today we are going to explore two of the most talked about approaches to growing our food: organic farming and scientific or conventional farming. Both of these methods have shaped the way we eat today. But what is the real difference? And which one is better for us and the planet? I will break this down for you with evidence and studies. Do watch till the end so that you can make up your mind on this very important question that affects all our lives. Hello, I'm Anand and you're watching Pale Blue Thoughts, where science meets rationality and gives you the most scientifically accurate information with evidence. If you haven't clicked subscribe and hit that bell icon, this is the time for it. If you would like to contribute to this channel, please click the join button for a sustained revenue, or click the super chat button if you would like to make a single contribution. Each donation helps us to make better and better content for you. Now, grab your sun hat because we are about to dig deep into the soil of what is really behind our food. First, let us talk about farming or agriculture. Humans started to cultivate crops to feed themselves just over 10,000 years ago. From being hunter-gatherers, our species slowly started to settle down and cultivate our own food. And this was the biggest anti-nature thing that humans did. To clear out all unwanted vegetation and grow only the food that we want. All kinds of pests and insects, which too, by the way, have a right to eat the food that nature produces. But we humans needed to feed ourselves so that we could populate this entire planet. The agricultural revolution was the history's biggest fraud. Who was responsible? Neither kings, nor priests, nor merchants. The culprits were a handful of plant species, including wheat, rice, and potatoes. These plants domesticated Homo sapiens rather than vice versa. These are Yuval Noah Harari's words from A Brief History of Mankind, not mine. Let us look at the growth of the world population over the years. The world population reached 1 billion in 1804, 2 billion in 1927, 3 billion in 1960, 4 billion in 1974, 5 in 1987, 6 billion in 1999, 7 billion in 2011, and 8 billion in 2022. It took 123 years to add the second billion, 2 to 3 in 33 years, and since then it has taken under 15 years for each billion expansion. Remember, a billion is 1,000 million or 100 crores. Clearly, something happened since the turn of the 20th century. And that I have discussed in this mini video that I released last time. The Haber process and the subsequent identification of chemicals which enabled us to manufacture pesticides and fertilizers. Interestingly, before the 20th century, humans relied only on organic farming to produce whatever they wanted to eat. So, before the Haber process and the invent of scientific farming, the whole world relied on organic farming. This is a very important aspect that you should remember. And that brings us to our first topic, organic farming and its history. Alright, let us now understand the meaning of organic farming. Organic farming is all about going au naturel. No synthetic pesticides, no chemical fertilizers, and definitely no GMOs. Think of it as Mother Nature's farm-to-table experience, minus the pesticide residue. But as you go deeper into the definitions, you can see that it unravels itself like a ball of string. Everyone has their own definition of organic farming. In India, there is the zero budget farming, Agnihotra farming, Rishi Krishi, Panchagavya farming, Vedic farming, and so on. While the rest of the world, there is permaculture, biodynamic farming, no-till farming, silver pasture, key line design, polyculture, and forest gardening. No standardization. Each person has their own definition of organic farming, and each one uses what they feel like in a measure that they feel is good as per their choice and experience. This is in contrast to scientific farming, where researchers identify what each plant needs at what stage of their growth and provide what is required in required amounts. Even in the case of pesticides, organic farmers use so-called natural products like neem oil or tobacco concoctions to ward off pests, whereas in scientific farming, farmers are taught to use specific pesticides for specific pests in a standardized amount so as to ward off the pests while keeping humans and other animals safe. So, that is the first point in favor of scientific farming. I will come to the pesticide use a bit later, as this is one strong contention that organic farmers use against scientific farming. Now, here it is very important to understand how plants obtain their nutrients. For that, let us first see what the nutrients that plants need for their growth and sustenance. Plants mainly need 16 items from a periodic table for their survival. And not all plants need all 16, and not all plants need it at all times. It is similar to how we humans eat. When we were babies, we relied on our mother's milk, and then as we develop, we eat a little more solid foods like maybe Cerelac. Then slowly we increase solid foods until we are grown enough to eat that biryani. We don't feed an infant, let's say a biryani, and we don't feed a toddler an entire biryani, and neither do we feed an adult Cerelac. The same goes for plants too. Depending upon the stage of growth, they require certain nutrients in certain amounts. The three main chemicals that all plants need at all stages are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And plants get it from the air and water in the form of carbon dioxide and H2O. So, needn't worry too much about them, as carbon dioxide is freely available from the air and hydrogen and oxygen are present in the water. Next, the plants need some macronutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. This needs to be supplemented externally by us if not present in sufficient quantities in the soil. Now, the plants also need some micronutrients like iron, manganese, zinc, copper, boron, molybdenum, and chlorine. These are required in smaller quantities than the macronutrients. Of this, iron and chlorine are usually available in the soil, but the other micronutrients needs to be supplied by us at various levels of the growth of a plant in adequate amounts. For example, boron, zinc, manganese, and iron are crucial for cell division, root development, and chlorophyll formation. Deficiency of these at the seedling stage can stunt early growth, and deficiency of manganese, iron, zinc, and copper during the leaf and stem growth stage can affect the expansion of leaves and stem growth. Now, as the plant matures, the demand for micronutrients gradually decreases, but deficiencies can still affect seed quality and the final yield. Now, how does the plant take in these chemicals from the soil and from whatever you throw beneath it? This is the area in which many people have the major misconception. They think that if you put gobar or cow dung in the soil, the plants would recognize it as the national shit and immediately start hogging it. The roots of plants have special pores which pull in the nutrients from the soil in the form of protein-based channels. In simple terms, plants have pores on their roots which are designed to pull in specific nutrients from the soil in the form of ions. So, the pores specific for potassium will take in only potassium ions, and the pores for nitrogen will allow only nitrates. Incredible, isn't it? Plants can only recognize food in an ionic state. So, if the plant needs potassium, it takes it in the form of K+ ions, phosphorus in the form of phosphates, nitrogen in the form of nitrates and ammonium ions, and so on. So it doesn't matter if you put gobar or gulab jamun. The plant has to rely on bacteria which decomposes the item that you put in into separate ions, and then the plant can pull it in. When we use fertilizers, we give the plant what it needs in the form that it needs, in the form of nitrates and phosphates and sulfates and so on. So in a way, we are easing the burden on the plants when we use scientific fertilizers. It is similar to unwrapping a chocolate wrapper before giving it to a child. It makes life easier. So the very concept that if you put vegetable waste or cow dung, it becomes food for the plant is a misnomer. Plants will only take in things once the items have been disintegrated as ions. So I will repeat it for a better understanding. Plants can take in nutrients only in the form of ions, and it doesn't recognize whether you put it in the form that you put it in. So even if you put the national shit of India or the national dish of India, the poor plant cannot understand the difference. If whatever you have put in can disintegrate and release the ions that a plant needs, the protein channels will pick it up. Else, whatever you put in just decays away. This point is very crucial to understand for everyone who wishes to raise plants, even if it is in their backyard or terraces or balcony rails or in their fields. Now I will turn my attention to some claims that organic farming supporters often use against people who follow scientific farming. Claim number 1. Your science is not equipped to understand the science behind organic farming. This is an often repeated phrase which I have heard people who support other pseudoscientific or unscientific things like homeopathy, astrology, etc. Our science deals with a spiritual energy which your science can't detect. My response to this is always the same. Please provide evidence for that spiritual energy and tell me how you detected that energy without using science. Game over. Claim number 2. Organic food is tastier than non-organic food. There are many people who claim, and I use the word claim in double quotes, that food grown using natural fertilizers like organic waste and cow dung and cow urine is tastier than food grown using synthetic fertilizers. There have been many blind trials conducted in many parts of the world where people have been given a mix of organically grown food and fertilizer-fed food, and till date, no one has been able to find the difference between the two. I state this with utmost conviction that if you are given two sets of fruits of the same freshness, size and variety, but they differ only in the farming methods, no one in the wide world would be able to tell which is organically grown and which one is fertilizer fed. Studies have repeatedly shown that there is no taste difference. Claim number 3. Organic food is more nutritious than non-organic food. That is, organic food contains more nutrients than non-organic food. Again, various studies have been conducted to chemically analyze the chemical composition and nutrient values of both organic and scientifically produced food, and till date, there is no evidence that organic food has more nutrients than non-organic food. This statement that organic food is not any healthier was the headline of The Guardian and BBC after Stanford University looked at more than 200 studies for content and associated health benefits of organic food over non-organic food. Their findings support those of UK's Food Standards Agency, which did a review a few years ago into organic food claims. No studies could provide any significant evidence that organic food was more nutritious and healthier than conventional foods. Similar studies were conducted by the French and Swedish food authorities, and they came to the same conclusion that eating organic foods does not improve your health significantly. Of course, this doesn't mean that organic foods are useless. It is just that the more nutritious, healthier and tastier claims of organic foods are baseless. Moving on to claim number 4. Organic manure is chemical free. Is there anyone who believes this claim? Is there anything in this universe which is not made up of chemicals? I have discussed this in these videos, which you can check out after this. If anyone can produce a material that is chemical free, please take it to the Royal Society of Chemistry and you can walk away with £1 million. In fact, organic manure contains millions of chemicals, much more than what is needed for the plant, which may include things which could be harmful to them. It is just like Ayurveda. You're mixing a lot of things which contain thousands of chemicals, and you don't know which could have a positive effect and which could potentially cause a danger to the consumer. Now, when you point this out, some people would say that naturally produced chemicals are less harmful than synthetically lab cultured chemicals. This is another huge misconception. No organism in this world, whether it is a plant or an animal, has the ability to distinguish between a chemical that is naturally available in the world and one that is synthetically manufactured in a lab. As long as the chemical formula remains the same, there will be no difference between the two, period. So, even if the plant receives a K+ ion from an organic manure and a K+ ion from a synthetic fertilizer, the plant cannot differentiate it in whatever manner. Claim number 6. Organic farming is environmentally friendlier than conventional farming. Mainly, this claim stems from the fact that scientific or conventional farming uses a lot of pesticides. So they claim that since they don't use synthetically produced pesticides, their products do not hurt the environment. Organic farming produces less yield than conventional farming. Let us look at this study by Holger Krichman. In this study, the best possible yield ever produced by any organic farming method was 65%. That is, the best yield produced by an organic farming method was 65% of what has been produced by conventional farming methods. Note that this study was done under controlled conditions and after supplying all the nutrients that a plant needs. Maximum yield 65%. But our population is growing. So, if you need to increase the yield, what should one do? Yes, increase the land for cultivation. If you want to produce the same yield from a hectare which uses scientific farming, you would need to use 1.54 hectares to produce the same yield using organic farming. But the earth is not increasing in size. So the only way is to cut down more forests and make that land cultivatable. This means more deforestation and higher carbon footprints. Is that what you would call environment friendly? When you cut down trees, you not only kill them, you also destroy the ecosystem in which many other animals thrive on. Doesn't it fall under the term environment? Now, if you look at carbon dioxide emissions from the same area from organic farms and conventional farms, at first look, it appears that organic farms produce less greenhouse gases than conventional farming. 3 mg for organic farming versus 4 point something for conventional farming. But before you jump the gun, compare the yields as well. Remember, I told you that to produce the same yield from organic farming, you need to increase the area of cultivation. We need to increase the area by 0.54 for the same yield. Now, if you compare the emissions from the new area, the amount of greenhouse gas emission is 6 mg for organic farms, whereas it stays the same for conventional farms. So, if we consider pure numbers, conventional farming is more environmental friendly than organic farming for the same yield. That is yet another fallacious claim down the drain. Now for claim number 7. Organic food is natural and toxin free, whereas conventional food is less healthy due to toxic pesticides. This is a logical fallacy known as appeal to nature. The wrong impression that everything that occurs naturally in nature is more pristine and toxin free. I have debunked this claim in my previous videos on chemophobia and natural versus chemical. It is the dose that determines the poison. Not everything that appears in nature is all hunky-dory and good. I will show you several slides here which will debunk this logical fallacy. Many chemicals that appear in nature are harmful for humans even in minute doses. Heck, some of them are even more harmful than snake poison, and a small dose of these naturally occurring chemicals can cause more harm than a snake bite, which by the way is also natural. Let us stick the knife a bit deeper now. Do you know which is the most commonly used pesticides in India? Neem and tobacco. Neem too is not toxin free when used in high doses. Neem oil, if ingested in large amounts or absorbed through the skin, can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and even seizures. In extreme cases, it can lead to toxic encephalopathy, particularly in children. Workers handling neem oil without proper protection may experience skin irritation and respiratory issues. Studies suggest that excessive consumption of neem-based products can lead to liver and kidney damage, especially in people with pre-existing conditions. Long-term exposure to neem might even disrupt reproductive health in men and women. Now, what about tobacco? Tobacco is classified as a Group 1 carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, meaning it has definitive, proven evidence of causing cancer in humans. It is considered the leading cause of preventable cancer worldwide. I said, dose determines the poison. In the case of tobacco, as in the case of alcohol, there is no safe level for consumption. The chemicals in tobacco such as nicotine, benzopyrene, formaldehyde, etc. interact with human cells, causing DNA damage, genetic mutations, and uncontrolled cell growth, which leads to cancer. And yet, it is freely used as an insecticide in organic farms, and then they claim that their produce is toxin-free. Since most of organic farming is unregulated, who knows what amounts are being used by the farmers. So, here I have broken down 7 or so claims made by organic farming promoters with scientific evidence. But what is this country up to? Our Prime Minister is keen to send this country to the dark ages in many ways, and promotion of organic farming is one of his priorities. Where the Prime Minister is leading, will the Finance Minister be far behind? Even the Agricultural Minister is keen on taking this country back to pre-1900s by adopting organic farming. I agree that they lack a forward or far vision into the future, but all they need to look at is the small island situated right beneath their country and its history to understand what a dangerous situation we are headed into if we adopt organic farming as a country. But that will be discussed in part 2 of this video. The story of how Indians have fared in farming will be discussed in that video. If you'd like me to make that video, then please comment and let me know. Organic farming is good for those people who like to take farming as a hobby, to get some much needed exercise if they are lazy, to make use of unused spaces on their terraces, or to have some greenery around the house. But to adopt it as a farming method for a whole country, that is like inviting disaster with both hands. So, what have we learned today? Organic farming is in some magical science-backed eco-friendly revolution. It is a mix of outdated ideas, mystical nonsense, and marketing hype that plays on people's fear of chemicals, even though everything is made of chemicals. Meanwhile, modern scientific farming, yes, the kind that uses fertilizers, pesticides, and GMOs responsibly, has done more to feed the world and protect the environment than organic farming ever could. Yet, people are still tricked into paying double for organic products that offer no real health benefits, no better nutrition, and often worse environmental impact. Organic farms have lower yields and require more land to produce the same amount of food, which means hurting the environment more. Organic pesticides are not necessarily safer or more effective than synthetic ones. Look, natural doesn't always mean safe, and synthetic doesn't always mean bad. And let us not forget, organic farming methods are based more on ideology than science. Organic farming might feel good or sound good, but feeling good or sounding good isn't the same as being right. It is time to stop romanticizing organic farming and start embracing agriculture that is actually backed by science. Because when it comes to feeding the world, we need facts, not fantasies. What matters is evidence, not ideology. And when it comes to feeding billions of people efficiently, safely, and sustainably, science wins every time. So next time someone tells you organic farming is better, ask them, better based on what? Science or superstition? I hope you liked today's episode. If you want me to make a part 2, please comment and let me know. Also, share this video to your family WhatsApp groups and to that uncle who swears by organic farming. If you like content like these, please subscribe. Every like, share and comments that you make under this video would enable the YouTube algorithm to show this to many others. I shall be back soon with another episode backed by science, not superstition.